All right, we're back. You see, my screen hasn't even changed. I'm just recording these two back to back because we're working inside the command line. We're getting familiar with some basic commands, and now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about that file structure. Okay, so you're in section 2.1, 2.1. So we're in 2.1 now, and we're going to talk about the structure of the file system. We're not going to get into the real nitty gritty. So don't worry. If this is like you're totally new to all of this, hey, it's okay. I'm with you. I've been there. Let's talk about the structure. Okay, the file system structure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get out of this command line actually. I'm going to get out of the terminal window and let's actually go to the file system and look at some things. And we're not going to hit on every one of these things. Just don't worry about it. We're just going to hit on a few big ones. We're going to hit on bin, Etsy, home. Let's see. We're going to go to USR and var. Okay. So those are the ones we're going to hit on. So let's start with bin. When we go into bin, what we're going to see is binaries, executables, basically, for the file system, for a lot of things in the background that we never even see. So we've been already using some commands for the command line, like navigating the command line. Where those commands actually live? Well, a lot of those live right here in bin, in binary, in this binary executable. So if we search here, if we search for ls, look at this. ls right here, list. That's an executable. Let's do cd. Well, we don't see the regular change directory. We do see these right here, cd. Let's try, let's look for move, mv. Well, there's move right here. Let's try CP for copy. Look, it's right here. So these things exist right here. And this is kind of where you could see the, the binaries and executables that are in the system. That is really all we're going to talk about with this. Don't mess around with this. Don't mess around typically with a lot of these directories unless you actually kind of understand what you're doing. But binaries is a great place to really screw up your system. So let's not mess around too much with that. So let's see. Let's go over to the home directory. So home is where your heart is. Home is where your user accounts get created. So when you create a new user, if you create a user called Bob, you're going to get a home Bob right here inside the home directory. And so right now we just have Callie, which is the user we're currently logged in as. But we can navigate all of Callie right here. So if we just, going from scratch, if I just go to file system and go home, go to Callie, we're going to find everything that belongs to this user. So we're going to find the downloads and any documents and all of that stuff. The desktop, like what the files we were working in, right here, sample files are right here. All of this is navigable through the file system. So home is basically your home user, your home folder for the user you're logged in as. Now, I skipped Etsy. I didn't actually mean to. Etsy is configuration files. This is where typically things that you can tweak live. If you're running an Apache web server, which is basically if you want to run a web server on Kali inside your Kali system, then Apache would be, or Apache 2 would be a place where you have some configuration files. So you have a configuration file here you could open and tweak depending on what you want to get out of your web server. So this is where you're going to go for configuration oriented things. Let's jump down to USR. This is the Unix system resources. Okay, USR. Don't think, oh, it's short for user. No, it's not short for user. It is Unix system resources. Linux is based off of Unix. Unix goes back a long ways, and it predates a lot of operating systems because it was used in like server environments and things like that long before we had the modern operating systems that we have today. So Unix system resources is a place where we have different commands that are available, similar kind of to the bin directory, to the binary executables directory. And as a matter of fact, we have another bin directory sitting in here that's got a lot of things in here. And a lot of these are, and I just saw some of the tools and things that are specifically installed in Kali here. Aircrack. There we go. So we've got Aircrack NG for next generation. Aircrack NG is on here. Yeah, we've got Mimikatz in here. Okay, so we've got all sorts of different executables and scripts existing in this directory. So that is the USR directory. So just remember, USR does not mean user. So VAR is, when you think of VAR, think of like variables. A lot of things get spit out into this directory as log files. So if we come in here, we actually have a log in here. We have Apache 2. We talked about a web server. Like if you're going to run a web server, then access logs would be probably something you're going to kind of keep an eye on, especially if you're running in an environment like maybe a company has hired you to do a social engineering campaign and you want to be able to see who's accessed a fake web server that you're running on your Kali Linux box, then this might be a place that you would come to, or error logs here if you're having issues, different things like that. Open VPN, if you're running, VPNs and you want to be able to look at those logs there. Samba is for file sharing. You could look at those kinds of logs here. So we've got all sorts of different kinds of logs going on here. And we also have things that are related specifically to the web server environment, www HTML. So if I double click this HTML file, this would be, if I was running the web server, this would be the default page that would appear because I'd have to change this, but this would be where that would exist and get served from. And you notice like I'm serving this isolated from I wouldn't want that to be connected with my home directory on the computer because that might compromise something. So it's kind of its own little web directory here for that. So you're going to find a lot of logs that they're going to tell you the path. Like if you're looking for something specific and you're doing some research on a particular kind of log, typically you're going to find out what the path is. You're going to be able to go find that log and explore it and see what's going on. We're not going to get into that too much either. So really, like I said, we're just taking this at a super high level right now, but let's just refresh our brains a little bit. We talked about the bin directory, binary executables directory. We saw where a lot of our commands existed in that directory. We see the etc directory. So think configuration files when you think etc, things that you can edit, like the web server and different things like that for how they perform and how they run. The home directory, this is where all of your user directories are going to go. And again, we open that up and we saw where the Kali is in here. So the Kali user is inside this directory. We looked at the USR directory, and that stands for Unix System Resources. And we saw where there's other commands and things that exist in this directory, and even the CD. Was it CD? No. I forget which one I was looking at in the other directory and couldn't find it. Anyway, so a lot of other commands running inside this and different things that you can access that have to do with Unix system resources. We went into the var directory, which is like variables, but also spits out, where your log files are and all of that. If we were running a web server, we would be using this www directory HTML inside here, and we'd be serving a website or whatever from there. So those are the big ones that you want to know. Let me hit one more on here, which you're probably going to need to become familiar with, and that is the media directory. So when we've got file systems connected, typically inside the media directory is where that shortcut gets created. So like we said, remember we set up this download so we could share, so we could see the downloads from the Windows machine. Well, that's right here. We actually could navigate into Windows and look at the downloads directory that's on the host computer because we set that up in the VirtualBox settings and we told it to remount it every time the computer is rebooted. So media is going to be, CD, your CD, DVD-ROM, CD-ROM. I don't know. I'm going back in time here. So a USB, you plug in a USB and it's probably going to pop up here. MNT is a mount directory. But again, we're not going to get in too much into those right now. In time, you'll be exposed to those in your Linux experience and it will make more sense now that you just kind of understand the basic structure of where some of these things are in Linux and specifically in Kali. So I hope this helps you out and I'll catch you next time.